So my name is Matthew Degan, and I make robots. And I studied product design, so that's what my background is. I got a degree in that, which was good. Let's see. So the number 2 question, second most frequently asked question about what I do is, so you make robots, do they do anything? And they don't do anything. They're not mechanical, but they. Oh, I'm nervous. Okay, so this is a LoveBot. A LoveBot is something that I created fall 2009, I guess, at this point. It was a response to the robotic interactions and the kind of self-indulgent culture that we live in. Hence the faceless robot in the concrete jungle. So that's the darker elements of the robot, but then I added a heart to say, well, we can love and we can be positive and support one another. So that's where it came from. That's just me in my studio. And I guess LoveBot has taken on many, many different meanings for many different people. Whenever I'm asked to describe it, it's always a different answer, to be honest. Sometimes it's about street art, and it's catered to street artists. Sometimes it's, for business people, I would talk about the brand and how that runs. Yeah. And I guess for a lot of people, it means a lot of different things. So they come in all shapes and sizes and all different variations. Generally, it's the same format of the square and the heart to create that iconic look. And then they'll be made with concrete, and this one was made out of tape in Trinity Bellwoods, which was really successful and a lot of fun to do. And often they're wheat pasted, which would be just paper on the wall with glue. Pretty simple. Here are examples of people that have been part of the project over the years. Everybody has their own story. Top left would be a big fan that's in California. And then the middle is a fan that is a huge street art fan that purchased a robot from me. I was teaching a grade 2 class, I believe. Weddings. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So the number 1 question is how did it all begin? It's kind of where he's at right now. It started with this. I was sitting on the subway, or on the streetcar actually, and I was thinking to myself, everybody's acting like a robot. Right? We're all tuned into our cell phones or headphones, and we're pretty much tuned out from each other. And it got me thinking as I was laughing and joking around with a homeless gentleman, or a gentleman who I assumed was. We were having a blast, and I was having fun. I was wearing pajamas on my way to first year university. And we were having so much fun, but every time we stopped talking, it was silent. And I was like thinking to myself, why isn't everybody else having a lot of fun? And then I guess for one of my first year courses, we had to design a designer toy. Everybody came in with plasticine models, and I came in with like these beautifully cast resin prototypes. And people didn't like me for that in class. But the teacher said, you need to sell this, you need to market this. And I thought, no, I'll just start a company. So I guess when I was 18, I incorporated my business, or 19, and then I started working on this project, and I haven't stopped since. The robots changed a lot since this first rendition out of clay. The story is kind of romantic. I got in my studio and I was all feverish about this idea. It's kind of nice when you don't have any design background in the beginning because you're really naive, so it has this positive, youthful energy to it. And I got there and I had this idea about the people in the city acting like robots, and I just sculpted this thing out of clay. And I removed the face to be different because every toy had a cute face. And then it also became a metaphor for the kind of blank look that we may give each other. And then I added the heart because we all need hope. And I wanted to give a positive symbol to people. Yeah. I forgot to set my stopwatch. Okay, so I was running, at the same time that I created this sculpture, I was running a group called the Sandbox Socials. It was just a weird little think tank in my apartment with lots of weird people from all different disciplines. I thought that being in a room of designers, just talking about design all the time, didn't really stimulate enough. It was the same ideas in the same room about the same kind of thing. So we had people from nanotech, business, art, I don't know, fashion, from all walks of life, music. And it was just a show and tell about what we were passionate about. But that idea turned into Sandbox Society, which is the name of my company. And then that's kind of been the holding company for LoveBot for a long time. But around that time, when I was running that group with those ideologies of being in a sandbox and playing and imagining things, and having the world as your sandbox where you can just create whatever you'd like, I was also sending these stickers that I would make to a group of kids online that really valued trading stickers together. It's kind of a part of street art culture. It's like the most tame version where you can put on a sticker and not get in a lot of trouble. I was actually arrested, or I was stopped in New York, and they said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm decorating." So that one. The stickers are easier to get away with. Recently in Montreal, I was actually in a cop car, and it did not go very well. But that's another story for another time. So this is where the idea of the Sandbox Social comes from, and that's like me as a little Chris Farley or something. But my dad built me this sandbox, and I guess since then it's been a metaphor for my entire life, which is pretty cool. This is me when I kind of dropped out of the race in university, and I finished my degree, but I spent all my time in the back corridors of places sanding robots and being a weirdo. I stopped going to bars, I stopped partying and hanging out, and I just started working on this. Kind of had this relentless work ethic since then. Yeah, and a part of the Sandbox Socials, or that group that I was in, we all had crazy ideas, but mine was like, what if I built an army of love robots to share kindness around the city? And everybody thought I was crazy. But it worked. I started making molds. It took about a year just to figure out how to make the molds right. It was all by myself. But later on, these heroes or these amazing people entered my life. Ryan has built, he's probably the person I get the most emotional about. He's built half or more of the concrete robots with me every Sunday for the last 2.5 years. All the concrete robots are built with my friends and family and my best friends. We have a barbecue and pour cement every Sunday. It's kind of like church, but with robots. and we get to go swimming. It's really fun. But it's also a ton of work. This is a picture that I took when I was training. I was swimming like tons of laps and getting really fit, but often I'd have to skip things, or we would continually run out of hearts. So I was pouring the cement to make the hearts. It looked like blood. I wasn't wearing shoes, so it looks really intense. But for me, it's a metaphor for the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that we did put into the project. And that's something to remember, is that no man's an island. So I didn't do this on my own. I did it with the input of hundreds of people over the span of 6 years. So many of the ideas that I've had have been an ex-girlfriend's or a best friend's, and you kind of pick and choose from every aspect of your life, as an artist often does, and you create the best outcome that you can with the information that you've learned along the way. This was the concrete army. It goes on for a while, but we made over 100 robots. We made 127 for one summer. And then my good friend Roger Beck, who's now an employer, somebody who I work with every day, he sent out a press release. I guess he told me, but I said, okay, go for it. And then all of a sudden we were on CBC and MTV and Global and Space Channel, and I started doing tons of interviews, and I was like, oh, we're gonna make a robot army, it's gonna be great. But I was on TV for like 2 weeks straight, and I couldn't make them, and that's when Ryan jumped in. So I was promising all these things, and I didn't have enough time to actually make them myself. So my friends went up to bat for me, which is pretty incredible. So with the love and support of my family and friends, we created a robot army, which was kind of amazing. And then that's a picture of me on CTV. There were a lot of interviews. They're all on lovebot.com if you want to watch them. And then the concept for that was that every sculpture would have a number, and that, yeah, they were all dedicated to people who've done kind things around the city, with the goal of illuminating the love in the city and trying to inspire more, which worked, because guys like this is Blade, that's his name, and he would just clean his toys and put them out on a table and offer them to his community, which is not a story you'd hear in the news, but it's little acts of kindness that I wanted to illuminate, that I wanted to share with the community. This one is a more minor one. There were ones that I did with like head injury and rehab associations that were really, really intense and emotional. There were ones that, a good example is a gentleman who was going to a paraplegic's friend of his house to do his laundry every Sunday for like 2 years. But you're not going to read about that, so I wanted to show those kind of stories. And just kind of combat all the negativity in the news that we're so used to. Since then, I've done murals and tons of work. We had a giant robot at Digital Dreams, which I also designed and built. Actually made 6 of these, which was kind of crazy. This one had a beating heart and beat to music at the music festival. This girl is wearing I guess a giant squirrel head. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, okay, let me see where we're at. Yeah, so that's the quick overview of how it happened and how it began, but I guess every day I've gotten up in the morning and worked on the same project, so things just keep falling into place and you just keep working harder. Let's see where we're at. I guess one of the most important things that I do with Lovebot is not ask for permission, which is just my mentality in life. I don't believe you should ask for permission to do what you love, which is pretty powerful because at the end of the day, you just go and do whatever you want. You get in trouble a lot, but you have to talk your way out of it. I'm pretty good at talking my way out of things at this point. Every time I'm arrested, they'll say like, "You've never been arrested. You don't have a record." I'm like, "This is the 7th time I've been in a cop car." But I hope they don't watch this. Whatever. Yeah, so I guess, like, for example, this was an amazing piece that we did. It took like 12 hours overnight. I spoke to the cops twice, and I was like, "Listen, man, it's for love. It's a community arts movement." Like, it's on the provincial website, which wasn't really true. But it was like 5 months ago. But anyway, we got away with it, and it made a lot of people smile, which is the point. And that's kind of been the idea of Lovebot from the beginning. It's if I can make one person smile, then my job's complete. And I've made thousands of people smile at this point, which makes, I guess, your existence and your purpose a little bit better. Oh, that's something I missed. Okay. So, I guess the purpose, or the value, at least my definition of value is creating a positive change in other people's lives. So that's the only thing that I've tried to do with Lovebot from the beginning. And every time that you kind of get misguided or you need to make more products or make money or find a way to balance the money and love scale, which is a very difficult one because if you don't have any money, you can't make anything. And if it's only love, then you have a big following but no abilities or no means to actually create what you need to do. And if you have only money, then you'll lose all your fans and have no love. So it's a constant balance that I'm constantly fighting for. But I guess the point is that it's about creating value for people. So I get a lot of older businessmen or my father or grandfather, which are also businessmen like myself, and they'll say like, "Well, how are you going to make money out of this?" Or now they just say, "Oh, we don't really understand what you're doing, but we're proud of you." Which is great. And I said, "Don't worry about it. I'm doing well. I'm just going to keep going." But I guess if you're creating value for people, there's an exchange. I don't expect for the exchange to be monetary at the beginning. But eventually, if you want to buy a T-shirt or something, that's great. Because it sustains the purpose and the focus of the actual project. It's a little vulgar, but the way that I like to think of it is don't shit on the name. Because you've produced something so positive and so wonderful that means so much to so many people that you have to make sure that you don't screw it up. There are people that have called Lovebot their coping mechanism in the city that makes them smile when they're walking their dog. There's a little girl that'll come to my house with her father, and they'll walk in, and she's completely starstruck and doesn't know what to say, and there's a room full of robots, It looks like a crazy person's house. I think I have a picture of that in here. But yeah, that's who I'm doing it for. So you can't really get caught up in the negativity or the people, the naysayers, or the people that try to bring you down. You're like, I'm doing it for that little girl. So screw off. I got work to do. And like this little guy. Anyway. Yeah, that's a picture of my studio. There's 4 of me in the image. I like to believe that there's 4 of me. Yeah, I don't know. I also do have a ball pit in my house, which is kind of ridiculous. Yeah, there's a lot to explain there, but basically there's robot costumes and sculptures and pictures of them and giant ones. Yeah, and that's what I work on all the time. Pretty much everybody in my life for the past 5 years has been involved in my project, and only the relationships that I have to take and like set aside to make sure that I have something of a personal life, I move over into another section. But there's only like 2 or 3 people in that section, and the other thousands of people are working on my project or have contributed or are part of that part of my life. So Lovebot isn't really something that's changed my life. It is my life. And I also like to think of myself as a Pokemon catcher. This slide was supposed to be at the beginning, but it got put into the middle somewhere. This was actually 2 weeks ago in Montreal. There's an amazing abandoned building next to the Saint-Amboise Brewery, and it's called the Big Stink. We were breaking in there with like construction gear on, and one of the guys, the local guys, caught us. But then he's like, "Let me show you around." And these guys were brilliant. They took a bunch of engineers, used their spare time to rewire the building, and they threw a party in there with a red carpet, and they cleaned the floors like you could lick off the floor. It was insane. They're actually going to do it again, but I can't say when. Yeah, I should bring some robots for that. But this is kind of like the way that I live. It's very much on the edge of a ladder most of the time. I've never fallen off of a ladder, but I'm always on them, which I'm impressed with so far. We'll see. I'm also a professional skydiver, so I've jumped 130 times, and at 200 I get to fly a wingsuit, which are the squirrel suits, so I'm excited for that. I feel like that's something you should check off your bucket list, like I can fly. We'll see. Or like at least descend at a better angle. And Lovebot's been all over the world now. Like I was at a restaurant and this girl came up to me and said, she said, where was she? She's in like Bali, I think. She's like, I was about to put a Lovebot sticker. She's like, I'm a fan of yours. She said, I was about to put a Lovebot sticker on a mailbox, but then when I went to do it in Bali, there was already one there, which is kind of awesome. This was on the Brooklyn Bridge, but they're in, I guess, most countries in some form, because there's just been so many stickers that have been made or shared. Yeah, and these are the kind of people that I'm supporting. This is another fan that came to my studio, and I think a lot of people think it's really funny when they're like, oh, I'm such a fan, maybe I could help out one day. And I'm like, yeah, come over. Like, I need a lot of help, I'm not afraid to ask. And I really only have 2 hands and a few people that are really dedicated. And then it's just it's a complete mess behind the scenes. And I think that's the most wonderful thing about it, is that I polish and I fine hone everything and when I present it. But it's like a movie. Like, you got like video cameras speeding down the set and Batman's like flying down Yonge Street. And when you see the video, it's very clean, but there's like 30 cars filming and there's people everywhere. So it's kind of the way that things run. Yeah. It's another piece I just put up in Montreal. I don't claim to put them up myself for legal reasons, but I have a lot of people put them up, so yeah, it's hard to catch. And then I've recently started to paint my work as well. This is under a bridge for the Pan Am Path, which is under the 401. That's a whole train that I painted with a friend of mine. These bottom 2 pictures are in Montreal of art that I've done. One's kind of a mechanized Lovebot, and the other one's a King of Hearts, which is Roi d'Amour in French, I guess. And then another picture of a giant robot that I've made. So yeah, the love invasion is the term that we use for what we've created, and it used to be the local love invasion, and now it's kind of the global love invasion. So I guess I'll end my talk slowly over the next 5 minutes. To explain that it's going to be in this slideshow's not going to ever end. I mean, I'll stop it, but it won't have a finishing point because it's not ever going to be finished. I think this is what's so beautiful about the project is when people are getting it tattooed onto their bodies. I actually have like video game heart lives, just in case, because of jumping out of planes and getting hit by cars. I get a new one every time I have a near-death experience, which is, I'll be fine, don't worry. Everyone looks so concerned. I'll be careful. My grandmother likes the story of like the half heart. It means like, oh, I haven't found my other half, and she loves that one, so anyway. She's the one that says to me, don't ruin a good story with the truth, which I think is really funny. I am telling you the truth, though. Yeah, so these are people that have been felt attached to the project and to my life and what I do every day, and that have tattooed my robot or the heart symbol, which we call the hero heart, onto their body, which is pretty powerful. And then this is a mural that I was painting last night, which is a really funny story because I didn't go to bed last night. I was on this lift at college in Spadina painting this flying giant robot next to this big bunny. It's west facing on College in Spadina, just west of the corner, or southwest corner. Yeah, and I was there from 7 p.m. till the sun came up, and then I came straight here. I thought it would make it more authentic. It seems to be working. Yeah, so I guess where we can end this for now is people say, where to next? I used to love the question, like, well, what's it going to be? Is it going to culminate in the toy? We had a Kickstarter that was successful, so the toy will be coming out, which is amazing. That's what it was designed originally as, like the little sculpture. So 5 years later, it's finally becoming a toy. It's been one hell of a process, too. I'm not a fan of that. But it's not going to culminate in a toy. That's just a little representation of what it is. And no, it doesn't move. My robots don't do anything, but they do create a lot of powerful change and positivity in people's lives. So they are extremely valuable. And I think that's the testament to the art piece, is that if you're creating positive change and value for people with a symbol, or a little icon or a shape. I mean, it's a sculpture. Jewelry or toys are just sculptures. They don't have any utilitarian purpose. So when you can create something so meaningful for people, yeah, I think as an art piece, it means it's successful. Yeah, the future, hopefully more people get tattoos. That's really it, no. Contemporary art is something that I've always wanted to do and do more of. Tons of street art. The reason why I love street art so much is it's this physical, full body experience of climbing, of running, sometimes, of like, just fully using your body. And I always said I would be happy forever if I could just physically train, whether it's sports or be energetic and create things. That's kind of my balance, and then sleep sometimes. So that's kind of how I function. So that's why there's so much street art, and it's just a way for me to feel fulfilled and for me to be affecting people's lives when I'm not there. It's probably more rare to see me outside of my corner because I sleep with a little loft where my bed is, and then just below that is my desk. And it's in the corner of my place. So I really live in that corner. I spend all my time at my desk or sleeping, which is really funny. So to be outside and to be playing with people and giving a talk, for example, is kind of more rare than it's a rare place to find me. But I'd say that you'd find more robots at the end of the day than you would me. So it's nice to be able to affect people's lives when I'm not there. I think what sums up the future of Lovebot is a Walt Disney quote where he said, "Never forget that this company started with a mouse," which is a really powerful metaphor for a tiny little insignificant creature. And then it became Disney and affected a generation and changed everything for North America and much of the world. And it's kind of nice to think that a little robot or a small icon could morph into movies and books. And I want to write kids' books after I do murals. On Tuesday, I'm headed to Montreal to paint some murals, and then Chicago and New York, and a bunch of crazy stuff. I'm just like flying by the seat of my pants, making it all happen and trying to stay true to what it is. I've got bigger dreams in each aspect of Lovebot, whether it's the street art or the brand or the honest artwork that can affect people. I want to be the first person to jump out of a plane and land at a mural and then paint the mural the same day. Just like stuff. So that's why we're talking to Red Bull right now about that. And it's good because they've got they're filming documentaries about that stuff. So, and it's a weird existence, I guess, because life is. I spend so much time doing so many good things for people that I don't know, and often the people closest to me get the short end of the stick, which really sucks. So I'm going to spend the next little bit of time focusing on my personal relationships and making sure those are good and taken care of, because putting everybody else first, except for the people that are closest to you, is a very strange way to do things when you're always preaching and talking about love and kindness and respect. So, so yeah, I guess the future of the project is infinite, and it may go on forever. And then I guess there's one other quote that I really like, and it's, I'm not going to remember the whole thing. But basically, when does a person truly die? And it's when they're forgotten. But it's not about the ego. It's more that if I can instill these values onto other people, if there can be kids growing up with a sculpture that was from 100 years ago, which many of these love bots are little relics, it could become the mascot of Toronto. It's well on its way to being that. And I think that if you can continually affect people's lives and pass on these stories of kindness, then your values can live on forever, and that's more powerful than the person. So that's kind of what I'm aiming for. And yeah, sky's the limit. That's it. Thank you.